Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Apologies for the delay in getting this video out. This is a video of Transformers Legacy Autobot Skids, which was released generally a couple of weeks ago. And apologies for my delay, but you may be able to hear I've got a bit of a sore, croaky throat, so I've not had much of a voice. So I'm a bit behind in catching up with videos, so apologies for that. Anyway, without further ado, here is Skids. Before we look at the figure itself, here's the packaging again. It's this new Transformers Legacy packaging with lovely view of Skids in his alt mode, tooled up with his weapons. Again, we have this open window here to cut down on plastics, Transformers Generations, Transformers. On the side, we have a very nice picture of Skids in his robot mode, which blends very nicely into a full body shot of him all armoured up with the combined version of his guns, which I will show you a bit later when I convert him into his vehicle mode. Back of the packaging, again, obligatory pictures of the products and what they can do. Bit of blurb. There's the tech specs, if that's floating your boat. And on the side we have the Legacy artwork, a bit of Optimus, bit of Hot Rod. You can see everybody there, bit of Blaster, a bit of Bulkhead, who we've already seen, all emerging as part of the first wave of the Legacy collection. And as we see there, Skids is a deluxe class. Now Skids, yeah, so apologies if I do lots of swallowing and coughing. I'm trying to not, but if you can see past it, I'll be so grateful. So Skids was one of my Autobot heroes, as it were, from the 80s. I never owned an original G1 Skids. I have no interest in collecting those vehicles slash robots, as many of you will know from other videos. And then I saw him feature in one of the Transformers comics storylines, and I kind of thought, oh, it's a really good character, I really quite like it. And of course, by that point, getting my hands on Skids back in G1 days, impossible. He'd gone, he had departed, never to be seen again. And of course, this was before things like eBay, etc. So I have never tried to pick up a Generation 1 Skids, because since getting back into recollecting, particularly Transformers, I kind of went after the key G1 figures that I wanted, that were available in G1, and some of them are quite, as you know, quite pricey, so I've kind of prioritised those. And actually, I think not to do a disservice to G1, because let's be honest, as we get close and have a nice close-up look at him, he is very G1 in his engineering and his modelling. But as we've mentioned in other Transformers videos, the engineering, etc., of the new and newer ranges, certainly for War for Cybertron onwards, the Transformer figures, the engineering is so much better. Again, I'm just going to go straight to his legs, which might sound a bit weird, but you'll understand why in a second. The fact that there is articulation in the legs, and they're, separate legs, you've got ankle tilt, you can pose them and all sorts of things. This is not something those of us who grew up with G1 figures is used to having. I've got a G1 Jazz, as I think you've seen. I've got a G1 commemorative reissue Prowl, which I came across just when I was starting to recollect the figures, and I thought, that's good. And you do sort of suddenly realise just how much imagination was required, because the focal point was very much on the vehicle mode, which is, I think, why they came packaged in vehicle mode. Whereas we couldn't achieve the same thing with the likes of our Skids. Sorry, for some reason I think I leant on the lights there, which caused a bit of a blackout. And Blackout is an entirely different Transformer. Just to confuse matters. So yeah, so I think in terms of going after any missing G1 Autobots and things like that, I'm more hyped about getting the Legacy or War for Cybertron versions and variations, just because I really like the look of the engineering that's associated with that. So getting a little bit closer, the head sculpt is really nice, really G1-y. It's kind of a shame to an extent that he has that box on the back of his head, admittedly. However, I think it's fair to say when you transform him, it does make perfect sense that he does. It is a deluxe class figure, so there are limitations on, even though the engineering is already streets ahead from what we had before, there are limitations still of deluxe class figures. It has waist rotation. He has, as you've already seen, leg rotation. He's very posable, and I will do some poses with him and some toy photography for the end of the video. I kind of like this figure. He's had a mixed reaction with online reviewers, and I'll sort of take you down the figure a bit. I don't really know why when I've got him in hand. There's a few little odds, but you either accept and embrace the G1-ness of the character, or you don't. And this is sort of an Energon axe, which of course, why wouldn't you have one of those, which attaches to the back. He cleans up kind of nicely. I love the doors here because that's very G1. That's how I remember the majority of the Autobots having the doors behind their arms. But the level of posability, the level of playability, so much greater on this figure than the G1 versions, and that's coming across with all of those figures, which I'm sure you are more than aware of. So I'll go ahead and get him transformed into his alternate mode. Again, we'll see how that plays out. Some people have got very different views of his alternate mode, but I'm going to give it a whirl and see what we think of it. And as I say again, I'll include some photos of that at the end. But for me so far, really nice figure. I'm really glad I picked him up. He's an excellent part of the Legacy range, and again, apologies for my throat. So stick around. I'm going to grab a quick drink as I transform him, and in seconds we should be able to see alt mode Autobot Skids. And there we go. Skids now all transformed up into his alt mode, his vehicle mode, and actually, again, another really beautiful iteration. I say beautiful, I'm about to give you a few things that make it not so beautiful, but overall I think it's a really lovely representation of 1980s Skids, certainly as I remember seeing him, even though I never actually owned the figure myself. So I'll pick him up. You can see he does have all of the qualities of his original 1980s self. I never had, as I mentioned, the original 1980s G1 version of Skids or anything that followed it. So this is so this Legacy collection is really giving me an opportunity to sort of go back and fill in some of my childhood collection gaps, for which I'm hugely grateful. So let's talk about the transformation, shall we? It was quite straightforward. It wasn't too dissimilar from the sort of generic 1980s transformation models and the processes. I'm a bit disappointed at the amount of struggle that I had to get, I think you can see it there, to get the roof to tab in. I've tried all sorts of measures. I've tried unpegging it, repegging it, untabbing doors, retabbing it, can't make it work. Don't know what it is, can't figure it out. Could be inexperience in transforming it, and it might come with time and I'll suddenly have a eureka moment. But I didn't want to wait any longer in getting this video out, because I'm very aware that he's hitting shelves and he's hitting doorsteps as he's being delivered. So here he is in his vehicle mode, and again the detail is really, really nice overall. I'm a real fan of the G1 styling here. You've got the translucent windscreen and doors. They did tab in before, but in my messing around trying to fix the roof, they're slightly less comfortably in there now. You can see into that driving area, although we could in some of the G1 figures too. So that's somewhere between, well, disappointing and realistic, I suppose. It doesn't hold me back from enjoying the figure in his alt mode at all. so I can live with it, but it's whether or not you could live with it if you were unsure about picking up this figure. I'm also a bit disappointed on the wheel front. The back wheels are quite free rolling. Visible head syndrome there. Hello, Skids. The front wheels are sort of split. So the interior part, not so great. The exterior part rotates. It moves quite freely, but the wheel overall has a bit of a false segment on the interior, which is not quite so great if you wanted him to roll around freely. I'm a bit disappointed about that. We also have, as usual, some rather peculiar. This is one arrangement for his weapon systems. You can, if I detach them all, you can have a look and see what the vehicle mode looks like when he's not weaponed up. So that hopefully can give you a bit of an idea of what Skids looks like in his alt mode without all of the paraphernalia. We can, of course, combine the weapons. So let me see if I can do this without any kind of trauma. Probably not. So we can attach, is it this way around? I think we can attach that there. We can have that as a variation of his weapon system. There's another one which I'm going to try to recreate now, which I don't want to get ridiculously incorrect. I think it might be, yeah, I think that tabs into there like that, and then this one, I say ridiculously incorrect, you can be the judge when you see it all put together, and then that connects to there. I have no explanation for this, but the instructions do show this as one of his weapon orientations, and then this can be attached, because of course it can, as a little bit of a weapons Mohican to the top of Skids alt mode. If you want to ask me why, I have no answer, but it kind of looks sort of cool, I guess. I don't know, it's a combination. It certainly ramps up his firepower opportunities, and makes him look a little bit like he's got a mohawk situation going on there. So, which of course, why wouldn't he? Because that was quite popular in the 80s, wasn't it? So yeah, for me, I like the figure. I like his transformed alt mode. The weapons array, it's a peculiar one. A few minor irritations with the transformation, namely tabbing in the roof is a real problem for me so far. You may not have that problem, but I have heard a couple of other people online talk about it, so it may be slightly more consistent than I'd like to think. And as I say, the doors did tab in fine, but as I played with it to try to get the roof flush, so I've made it worse for the doors. So please imagine a point in time when the doors did actually, they're not too bad actually in the scheme of things. They're in quite well. Again, I love the detailing. I love the detailing of the colours. The panelling's very nice. We've got the gas door there for him to allegedly be refuelled. You've got lovely detailing. There's no rear windscreen. There's no paintwork on the back that could have been used to pull out some lights. We could have possibly got a license plate for Skids there. I dare say some third party will come along and give us everything we need to sticker him up. Maybe repro labels or toy hacks, for example, if they haven't done it already on it. But yeah, cool figure, cool little 1980s. I think I want to say he was a Honda Civic, but I might be making that up, and I should have double checked that before I said it out loud. So feel free to correct me in the comments. But I do seem to remember it being a Honda. And Honda Civic just seems to trip off my tongue. I could be talking nonsense. Do not officially quote me on that, because it could be an arrant, unintentional lie. So here he is, all transformed up. The Legacy edition of Autobot Skids, as we enter this new multiverse arrangement of figures. What do we think? I like him. I'm glad I have Skids in my collection. transformation issues notwithstanding. I think I can probably resolve those with some practice, and he may also be quite stiff fresh out of the box. We shall see. Does he have a place in your collection? If you like Transformers and you're a fan of 1980s Transformers and the engineering progression of the 2020s, then yeah, I think this Legacy figure does have a place in your collection. Whether or not you want to represent the weapon system in that fashion, it's a choice. Choices are, of course, good things. I might choose to not do that. So, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've been able to make your own mind up about whether or not Skids belongs in your collection. If he does, that's great. If he doesn't, I totally understand. And thank you for staying just to see what he looked like. I will, of course, stick in a couple of photo stills at the end of the video, as usual, for you to see him in a sort of toy photography setting, and what we can do with him there. In the meantime, if you have found this video useful in making your decisions, please do smash the like button. Thank you for coping with me and my very raspy sore throat. Why not drop a subscription to the channel, and you'll never miss a future video of any description, whether it's Transformers or any of the other toy ranges that we were looking at, or model collections that we'll look at. Always great to have you around and checking out those videos. Maybe follow a playlist or make some suggestions if there's anything you'd particularly like to see me get hold of or give my own take on. In the meantime, just remains for me to say thank you very much. You've been a fantastic audience. I've been the Time Travelling Toy Collector, and this has been the Transformers Legacy Edition Autobot Skids from Takara Tomy and Hasbro. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you fancy getting your hands on him. Do remember that a thing of beauty really is a toy forever. Time to roll out.